All right, vlog number two. I'm still getting used to starting the camera here, but so glad that I got vlog one out of the way. I think it helped with a lot of the apprehension that I had about doing this whole thing. Didn't realize how nervous I was until I rewatched the video. But it's done, and now it's no turning back, I guess. I also got some great feedback from a good friend of mine, my business partner, and my wife. And so hopefully I can take some of the things that they shared with me and make this a little better than the last one, and of course continue to improve as we go on. As I thought about what it is that I wanted to document and talk about it, there's so much that I have on my mind, but I think it's important that I document the history up to this point and how I got here. And all this is purely from my perspective, so that once the history is down, as I go on and talk about specific things, there's some context to it, and you can go back and kind of plug in, well, that was a success because of the history or what have you. So I'm going to talk about how it all began, at least again from my side. So I think I mentioned in the first vlog that I started with the company in October of 2016, but it started, I'm sorry, in February of 2016, but it started in October of 2015. Now the name of the company is Rookie Wear, ROOCI Wear, and it's an online apparel company with the focus on Polynesian design, and we'll talk more about that. But it was started in October 2015 by the owner. Algie is his name. He started it, and from what I understand, it started as he has a degree in fine arts, and has always been into Polynesian art, tattooing, and has had some experience with T-shirts as well. So they're in Utah. They have a cousin who played for the BYU football team. And so they decided to make T-shirts in support of their cousin. And his brother came along and Lavelle, and started to help him with that. And Lavelle has a degree in graphic design. So both of them very creative, have formal educations in that area as well. So they created these shirts, again, just to show support for their cousin. And I think they were meant mostly for family and friends. And that's kind of the first time that I saw what he was doing. But we saw the shirts, loved them, and said, hey, yeah, we'd love to show support as well. So my wife and him are cousins, and so we, and I think from that, from what I understand, from the popularity of those shirts, other folks started to want to purchase the shirts, and so they did an order and actually sold the shirts. And I think from there that sprang this idea, well, why don't we do more of this? And so they were moving along, doing a number of different things, and my only connection was that I would run into Algie at different family functions, and excited about business for a long time. And so seeing this person starting this new business was exciting for me, and I wanted to hear all about it. And so we had some great discussions about what he was doing and how he was doing it, and plans for the business, and it was really cool. And I was excited for him. I think the whole family was excited for him. Then in January of 2016, I had heard that he went out to Hawaii and was part of the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame event that happens every year out there, and that he had partnered up with a company, and they had loved his designs, and he designed for the event, and it went really well. And then he came back from that Hawaii trip and came over and talked about it, and it was just an exciting time, and we were happy for him. Things were taking off, and it was really cool to see. So at that point, because I had loved business, I loved the things that he was doing. And seeing, I think, his drive from the beginning as well too. I don't think it was something that I just jumped into lightly. I'd seen what he was doing, and his focus up to this point. So I said, hey, I would love to be a part of this, and really, I didn't know what that meant or how I would fit in. I just thought, hey, this is really cool, and I wanted to be a part of it. And to Aljay's credit, I mean, he had to have shown some type of trust in me for saying, yeah, let's see where you can fit in, especially with the new business, and with the success that he was having. It wasn't really necessary, I think, for me to come in, and we've talked about it later on, and he shares that it was my enthusiasm for what he was doing, and some of the questions that I asked him. I mean, I think he felt that there was some genuine interest in what he was doing. But again, I'm grateful that he said, yeah, well, let's see if there's a place for you. So again, he has this partnership with this company, and when I come on, the plans for the company now are, or for Aljay's now in the partnership, is now to start designing for colleges, for Brigham Young University and the University of Utah specifically. And from my understanding, from all of our understanding, was that the company that we were partnering up with had a license. And for those of you who are kind of new to any of this, in order to use any type of college logo and any type of merchandise, and most folks are probably familiar with this, you have to have permission, and you have to have a license to do it, and there's a process that you go in through to get the license, and I think for most folks it's kind of a secret on how you do that, and it was for us. We didn't understand what it took. So the partnership, the way that it's structured, is it's 70-30. The company that we're partnered up with, they will make 70% of whatever profit comes from this partnership, and we'd make 30%. Our responsibility was to create the designs and then market the designs. And their responsibility, from what we understood, was that they were providing the license and the distribution outlets. And so that's why their percentage was so much higher. And going into this, we thought, well, that sounds fair. They've purchased the license, they've put the money in for that, and they're providing distribution. What good would this great product be if we didn't have a way to sell it and make money from it? So it seemed fair. When I came on, we were super excited about being able to get into these colleges, and I come from a sales background, and so talking with Aljay, we thought, well, why don't we go to the schools and just talk with them about what they're looking for, and we can start planning and designing around what they want to do. And so really all we did was head over to the bookstore and walk into the buyer's office and start talking with them about what we were doing. And I think there's some important lessons to learn about those initial meetings and the process that we went through to get their attention, if that's the right word. So we spoke with them, and they said, hey, we showed them some of the designs. Aljay had already done quite a few designs and some different things, and so they said, hey, this looks great. Here's some things that we think you want to change, which was great feedback for us. But if you'll make these changes and then you get your license, yeah, we'll go ahead and try you out. And that happened at Brigham Young University, and it happened at the University of Utah as well. University of Utah really wanted to see some solid samples. We were going in there with pictures on our phone and saying, hey, here's what we've got. What do you think? But both of them said, well, show us your license, and then we'll have some serious talks. And we thought, well, this is a done deal. I mean, we've got the licenses set up, so easy. Let's get this thing rolling. So we go back to our partners and we say, hey, we're super excited. They've both verbally agreed to place an order once we show them a license. We go back to our partners and we say, hey, guys, guess what? We went to the bookstore. We spoke with them. They're on board. They love it. They just need to see the license. How long do you think before that can happen. And to our shock, on that phone call, so there are two, the other company had two partners, and it was Zhao Jie and I on the phone. They actually get upset, or one of the partners actually gets upset with us and says, "Well, why did you guys do that? You guys should not have gone into the bookstores to talk with anyone. That is completely our role. It can jeopardize the license, things like that." And what was funny was the other partner kind of spoke up and said, "No, that's great that they did that. Now we know what the stores want," and that was our objective too. And we thought, yeah, that makes sense. Well, they get into a little bit of an argument. It wasn't a big deal, but there's a disagreement there, and Algie and I recognize that. We get off the phone, and that, I think, sent a lot of red flags up. And I think sharing that story, it's not to discredit this other company in any way, but to talk about how there were obstacles at the very beginning, and that had we not continued to push through, we could have easily just let things go or followed their route, and who knows where things would be. But so Algie and I talk, and we think, hey, that seemed kind of weird, didn't it? We both agreed that it did, and so we said, well, why don't we do our own research? And so we went back to the bookstores and said, hey, this is the company that we're partnered up with. We want to do apparel. Do they have an apparel license? And we're doing some research at that point about licensing and how it all works, strictly for our own understanding, to understand how we need to market our apparel to these universities, how it all works in terms of producing product and getting it in there and all that sort of thing. So we talk to the schools, and they say, well, they don't have a license. They do have an NCAA license for a certain type of merchandise, but it's not apparel. And so, again, some more red flags go up. So we go back to them and say, hey, same situation. We all get on a conference call and say, hey, we've spoken with the schools, and they say that you don't have a license. Are we filing paperwork, or where's that at? And at this point, the relationship is still great. We're still excited. We're thinking 30% is great of all this merchandise we're going to move, but from that conversation, they told me, well, when we got into this partnership, it was with Algie and his brother Lavelle, not with you, and so we no longer want to have you on any of the phone calls. So I said, okay. There's nothing that I can do about that. And so from that point on, Algie and them continue to have conversations about some things that are happening. And it was weird that happened, but again, we're still excited. We still think this is a good partnership. Maybe they're just a little weird about things, and maybe based on the criteria of a license, we did jeopardize something and just don't realize it. But as things continue to go on, questions start to get asked from our side, and the answers aren't sufficient enough to answer the questions that we have, especially when it comes to the details around the licensing. No numbers were actually thrown out, but we were given this idea that it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually have an NCAA license, and that's why our company would have no chance of doing it unless we partnered up with them. And so, of course, just starting out, we're thinking, well, yeah, there's no way we can do something like that. So anyway, it continues to go back and forth. We continue to just question the legitimacy of them having a license, and it just turns out they can never give us a definite answer. Also, part of this partnership, that something that should have happened from the very beginning, was there should have been a contract signed, and that was something that they said that they would put together, and Algie and his brother were going to sign this contract. And so Algie started pushing that point. Well, hey, can we get a contract and some things on paper so we can sign, and just so everybody's covered. And that got a lot of pushback as well too, and they kept saying, yep, we're going to get it over to you, and that never happened. Some other things that started to happen is the breakdown of calls. we'd have a appointed time to call, or LJ would, because at this point I'm just kind of in the background, just participating really in the discussions that we have as a team about how to figure out what's going on. So eventually, and I'm not gonna share the name of the company. I don't think that's important. But eventually, the partnership dies out. Nothing moves forward. There continues to be these inconsistencies in what's being shared, and I don't know if they were the ones that introduced that thought that the partnership should die out, or if it was us. But regardless, the decision's made, and we decided to go our way. And so now at this point, we're kind of we're back at where we started. Well, I guess back at even further back from when I came on. When I started, there was this partnership and these this strategy to grow this brand. And so we start talking. Well, what do we do now? And so up to this point, I feel like from October to February, maybe, well, February up into April, May, really, again, I'm just kind of this employee, right? I'm just helping out with this company because I love what they're doing. I'm excited about the future. I see tons of potential here. But really, again, I'm just kind of in the employee position. So we start talking, well, what do you guys want to do? And I as I think about it, I don't remember it being this big conversation. I think we all just thought, okay, well, what's the next step? Let's keep pushing. Let's move forward. It wasn't like, well, that sucks. What do we do? I think it was more, all right, now we have total control. What are we going to do with it? And so we decided, well, what does it really take to get a license? If what they had shared with us about getting a license was false up to this point, what did they tell us about actually getting our own license that was false as well? So we start looking into it, and it's a I don't want to say it's a simple process, but anybody can do it. It's going through an application, giving them the right information that they need. It does take, I guess one of the most important pieces of it is being approved by the schools, by Brigham Young University. So each and I can talk more specifically about the licensing process if that's something that someone's interested in. But each school has to essentially approve a license that someone applies for, and in order to do that, you have to have something unique. I believe there's tons of apparel out there, and it really has to be something that the school feels will add value to what they're already doing. And again, they have contracts with Nike and Under Armour, and so again, it really has to be something that stands out. And so we went back to the schools and we explained the situation. Hey, we thought we had this in line. We don't, but we're going to go after a license on our own. They said, okay, well, come back and talk with us once you do that. And so we did that. We went through the licensing process, and we found out that it was nothing like we had been told. And I guess that's a great lesson for us to have learned, that not to take information for granted. If it's something that's vital to the business, or maybe even not vital, that we should go out and learn it on our own. And so we did that, and found out what it took to get a license, and went through that process, and were able to get a license for those schools and get apparel into them. And it was such an exciting time. There were a lot of things that fell into place for us just starting out. And again, I think that's probably for another vlog. But so at this point, we now have NCAA licensed apparel, and all of it is focused on Polynesian Designs. So what we do is we take the school logo and add the Polynesian design to it to give it this fresh look. And one of the reasons that we do that, of course, is because of the increase in Polynesian athletes and and staff that are in the high school ranks, college ranks, professional ranks as well, and not just in football, but in a number of different sports. But seeing that as our market, that's what we were creating around. So that's what we've done. That's what we've done up to this point, and we're in June, July, August, September. We're just super busy with filling orders for BYU, University of Utah, BYU Hawaii, fans, and Pro Image. And it was a very exciting time for us. We felt like this was success, and I think it was as we look back at it. While we were doing that, we were doing some other things too, smaller jobs, which I think is an important thing too, that we didn't feel like, well, we've got this big thing, we've made it. I mean, we still cater to a lot of smaller jobs, and we're still doing that now. And I think that's something that we'll continue to do. And it's played a big part in our business and our relationships with others. So, keeping up with the history here, football season ends. We had a great run, but one of the things that the school shared with us was that once football season is over, that really is the end of any purchasing for many of the schools. And we thought, well, maybe in the past, but with our brand, people are going to love it, and they're going to want to continue to purchase it, and we probably won't run into that problem. Well, football season ends, and things die down across the board, and with our business as well. No more purchases. I mean, the school's not ordering anything, and so it was a great time to kind of reflect on everything that we did. But I don't think we realized what was going to happen, and I think part of it was because we had shot up so quickly and had this great success, and then all of a sudden it was all done. And starting a business, there's so many activities surrounding it that keep you busy, especially when it's new. I think, and you're just kind of scrambling to do as much as you can, and you're busy. I don't think we planned sufficiently enough and it was our first year. I don't think we didn't know what we didn't know. So things kind of taper off there. We go into the last few months of the year, October, November, December. And at this point, we don't have anything moving at all. And even the communication within the business kind of dies down as well. And I think, looking back, I mean, there's really nothing. I mean, there's always something we could have done, but we all have our own lives that we're trying to live. This isn't something that we can all do full time. It's not paying us a salary. We're all just doing our best to keep this business going, taking the profit that we have, reinvesting it into the business, and then using that to purchase inventory and sell. And understanding the financial side of it was there was a learning curve there as well too, and some good valuable lessons, and a lot of lessons that we're still learning. But so at this point, we're going January, February, March. Still, nothing's really happening. We're doing little things here and there. There's kind of this disconnect, I think, because there's not much communication. And then in March, we start to think, okay, football season's coming up. We need to get our heads together again and get geared up for this and change some things that we did. We've learned some great lessons. We know now at least some things to expect, especially for your first year. So going in the second year, let's see what we can do. One of the things that we decided to do was expand our license. So at the end of the year, we had 5 different licenses. And we thought, hey, this is going great. And I think this comes too from not knowing really when they say it's going to die, how much it's going to die. We thought that our designs, the strength of it would carry us through that, and schools would want that for, their other sports. I don't think that if they don't want that, I just think that based on the market, consumers just don't buy anymore. I don't know if it's going into Christmas season, they have other things that they want to purchase. That's still something that we're learning, but so we got some other licenses, thinking, okay, we'll get into some other schools. The purchases from those schools will sustain us as we wait for these major universities and get back into football season again. So that happens. We get these other licenses, but even with those schools, they showed a lot of interest at the beginning as we're working with them, showing them the design, saying, here's what we got. They say, yes, we'll approve it, but it goes from this the trademark and licensing department down to the bookstore buyer department, and I believed at least that they were connected. That once the school approves it, they're telling the bookstore, hey, yeah, this is great, go ahead and purchase this line. But it doesn't work like that. Well, not in all cases. So the four licenses, the additional licenses that we had, we didn't really have a chance to use them as well as we would have liked to. But now it brings us to where we are now, and there's so much that's going on. I mean, but I guess the point that I wanted to get through just in this vlog was that from the start, we ran into a lot of different obstacles, and we continued to just push through, and I think attitude and mindset was a huge part of that. Always seeing the positive. I don't think we've ever felt like we've had any setbacks because we've had so many great things happen. And I'd love to spend some time talking about that first year sometime, and really how so many things lined up to provide success for us. But we're going into our second year. We've got our website going. We've found a new way to offer our product. We've amped up our marketing, and a lot of it has come from, I believe, our communication. Starting in March and April, we got back together, kind of renewed our commitment to the company, and talked about, okay, here's what we really need to do, and then we stuck to it, and did what we had talked about doing, and I think that's what led us up to where we are now. And I think we're a completely different company than we were at this point. Well, obviously than we were at this point last year, but even at the end of football season, when I think as we look back, we gauge that as our most successful time. We've had a lot of success at this point, and it's come from a very different source, and I think that's an interesting thing too, in terms of how you believe your business is going to go, and how it can go, and what do you do? Do you push hard to steer it back to a certain way, or do you let it kind of flow the way it's going to, and you take advantage of that flow? And I think we've tried to do a little bit of both, and that's been an interesting part of the business as well. But we've got football season coming up soon, and that's going to be, we know, exciting. We've partnered up with a couple of other different organizations that have given us some other opportunities. But overall, I think things are going really well. Now, I've spent a lot of time talking about that. Hopefully that brings anyone up to speed, and hopefully that, as I'm documenting, I can look back and say, yeah, I covered the important parts of the business and why we are where we're at. So anyway, that's super long, but I think from here on out, hopefully as I talk about the different aspects of the business, it can be connected to this. Again, it's an online apparel company, and so it's become online because the direction of the business changed for us. I think we believed we would be retail, and be in bookstores and retail outlets, and that may come down the line. Still, I don't think that's completely out of the picture. But our focus is now online, and I think that's going well. So anyway, sorry. But I think that's as much as I want to share today. While that's super long, and there's probably more that I can go into. But anyway, all right, thanks. That'll do it. Let's get to work.